Just. All right, beautiful. So if you are on either the mat or on your chair, we just want to come right up onto the sits bones for me. Think that a piece of string is lifting you up nice and tall towards the ceiling. So you can either, if you've got a piece of hair, even pull that lightly so that you get a little bit of a length and a lift. As you do so, you're just going to feel yourself start to become a little bit more aware of your posture. And then as you're doing so, we just want to make sure that you're not really flaring through your rib cage. We want to bring your ribs back over your hips and then stay nice and tall and lifted for me. Perfect. So now that you're in that nice, tall, lifted position for me, I'm just going to pop on one more light. There we go. So now that you're in that beautiful, nice, tall, lifted position, I would love for you to close your eyes down for me, if you can. And then now that you've closed your eyes down, if you've got hands available, bring them to the side of the rib cage. So we're going to tuck your thumb behind your rib cage, and then we're going to wrap the fingers around the midsection. Beautiful. So once we're in that position, hands are wrapped over side of body. Ooh, someone's just creeping in there. Stay lifted nice and tall. Keep those eyes relaxed down for me. Beautiful. And then I just want you to start to take a nice deep inhale through your nose. And then try and exhale through your mouth for me. So nice deep inhale through the nose. And then exhaling through the mouth. So I want you to continue these nice, deep, long breaths for me. And then just start to pay attention to what's going on in your body. We want to start to try to fill your diaphragm with air rather than you just breathing into your chest. So as you breathe into your diaphragm sits under your rib cage here, and it's your major breathing muscle. Your diaphragm, when we breathe into it, should start to look like you're inflating a balloon on the inhale, and then on the exhale, it passively deflates. So it can be really hard to slow your breath down and tap into your diaphragm to breathe, unless you've done singing or anything like that in the past, or lots of Pilates or yoga. Just take it slowly. If you have your hands available, it can help to place one hand on your belly and one hand on your chest. And then over the next few breaths, try to keep your eyes closed for me still if you can, so you can really just start to tap into what your body's doing. See if you can feel that hand that's on your belly with air for me. So see if you can start to get it moving, even if it's just a couple of millimeters. So take 5 deep breaths for me here, and we want to try and keep the hand that's on your chest as still as possible. Beautiful. Nice deep inhale through your nose. Fill the belly, ribs with air, and then exhale, let it all go. Let's just take 2 more breaths here for me. One more. Beautiful. So if you're really struggling and your top hand's moving a lot, I'm going to get you to go home today and do some practicing after this. But for now, what I would love for you to do is we want to really just start to think that we're getting a 360-degree breathing motion happening. So now we're going to take that top hand and we're going to place them back around the side where we started. So your thumb should dig in at the base of your bottom rib cage, and your hands just wrap around the side of the midsection. Keep those eyes closed down for me if we can. Now this time as you breathe and you take that inhale, can we start to really focus on seeing if we can feel any movement through these fingers and through your thumb? So we should feel this happening through your torso. So we take that deep inhale through your nose. And we should feel a little bit of lateral rib expansion, belly expansion, and you might feel just the tiniest bit of movement through those thumbs. Most of it's going to be through these fingers here in the front of the body. 3 to go. Take that nice deep inhale. And exhale for me. Nice deep inhale. And exhale. Couple more to go. One more. Beautiful. Just release those hands, relax, and then just come back to your nice relaxed seated position wherever you are, on couch, chair, or on a mat. Beautiful. So your diaphragmatic breathing that we just went through is one of the first things that I teach to my clients, no matter whether you're trying to have a baby, pregnant or postpartum, or if you're years postpartum and you're still experiencing things like incontinence, leaking, you have heavy feelings that can sometimes present as a possible prolapse. If you're also still healing your stomach separation post 12 months, that is where we start. And we start with our breathing system for a few reasons. So your breathing system is absolutely integral to the functioning of your pelvic floor, because when we take that nice deep inhale, so as that balloon was inflating and deflating, on the inhale, your diaphragm passively presses down to relax your pelvic floor. And then on the exhale, it's passively lifting your pelvic floor naturally without you having to think about it. The main problem in society is that we are running around, we are busy, we are time poor, we are multitasking, and we're doing all the things. When we are doing all the things, we are often shallow breathing into our chest. When we shallow breathe into our chest, and if you found it really hard to get the bottom hand moving with that breathing, is that when we only breathe into our lungs and our chest, is that we are not getting that passive movement of relaxation and activation through our pelvic floor, which means a couple of things. It means that we're not necessarily in tune with when our pelvic floor is both active and relaxed. It can mean that if we have a really busy high-end corporate job, you're A-type personality like myself, where I have to work really hard on the relaxation of the pelvic floor, because those muscles can tend to be overactive, which also presents similar issues to being underactive in terms of symptom-wise. So breath work is really underestimated, and trying to incorporate diaphragmatic breathing as the normal part of your daily life and the way that you breathe 90% of the time has incredible benefits to both help to prevent overactive pelvic floor, but to optimize your pelvic floor function in general daily life and your rehabilitation post-baby. So if you have just had a baby, you can commence this diaphragmatic breathing literally from day one. Breathing will help to get blood flow to your body to help that repair process. So this is the number one thing that we start off with post-baby. And it's going to also help you to bring more awareness to your posture, which has completely altered during pregnancy. So during pregnancy, your diaphragm's generally compromised because all your organs get pushed up underneath your ribcage and out of the way to make room for bubs. And so as you get more progressed during a pregnancy, you'll find that it was either, if you're in your pregnancy at the moment or you've just come out of that phase of motherhood, that it would have been really hard to take a deep breath. And so if you are fresh postpartum, same thing, that it actually feels like it takes a lot of effort to take a deep breath And that's why, because your diaphragm functioning has been compromised during pregnancy due to all the postural changes and due to there being not as much space in your abdominal cavity due to growing and birthing Bubba. So diaphragmatic breathing is our number one tip and way to commence your postpartum rehabilitation. In your PDF that you're going to get once the class finishes today, it's going to take you through how to start to implement these things into your daily life. If we can start to make it a daily habit, you are more likely going to continue this on for your life rather than it just be a phase. So we really want to start you to implement it into things that you do in daily life. So on the checklist, we'll have things like whether it's that every time you go to the bathroom, you try to just take 5 deep diaphragmatic breaths to begin with. If you get 2 minutes to yourself in the shower, possibly, that if you can stand, close your eyes, try to become a little bit more aware of what your body's doing. We want to get that 360-degree breathing, so belly, ribs, and back, because that's going to help your pelvic floor both relax and contract, and it's going to help us for your pelvic floor work in a moment. If you find that you're getting really, really overwhelmed with motherhood, which happens, I find, constantly, our energy really, really does reflect over onto Bubs. So this breathing actually helps to tap into your parasympathetic nervous system to relax you. So I find if George is really quite uncomfortable, he's teething a lot at the moment, which means he's a little bit miserable, and he's usually such a happy baby. I find myself getting a little bit overwhelmed when he's really uncomfortable or if he can't be settled, because it's not nice as a parent to see your child not able to settle, not able to be comfortable, in tears, crying, and we get overwhelmed. So if we can really try and focus on our breathing during those times, that's going to both help to calm us and Bubba at the same time as well. So if you're struggling to find ways to implement it, that is one of the best ways. If you can close your eyes down, really try and focus on your breath, and that will help to reduce your heart rate, which in turn will also help that calming process for Bubba as well. So I'll have that on your checklist for you, mamas. So don't stress about how we're going to apply all of this. The next thing I really want to go over is how we go from adding breathing as your first point of call for your recovery and isolated pelvic floor work. So it doesn't matter whether you've had a vaginal delivery, if you've had a C-section, your pelvic floor can still be compromised both from pregnancy and your posture changing during pregnancy. So most women tend to hang forward in their pregnancy at some point in time. So whereas you may have been standing nice and tall at the start of your pregnancy, as we progress during pregnancy, we all tend to end up being in a little bit more of an anterior tilt. So we end up being in this style position rather than this nice, tall, lengthened position, because Bubs, as your belly grows, there's only so much room. So we end up slightly hanging out in an anterior tilt. As we do so, that can alter our pelvic floor activation. So if you are pregnant, we're going to use this time to help you to become aware of how your pelvic floor feels to activate during pregnancy. If you're postpartum, the sooner you can start working on it, the better. If you have had a vaginal delivery and you've had tearing, you've had an episiotomy, you have experienced a prolapse, you just really need to start gently. And you really need to focus on using the breath work we've just gone over to help with your pelvic floor contractions. So in order to heal, we actually need to work on it. We need to increase blood flow to the area to help and aid in the healing process. So the sooner you can commence your pelvic floor work, the better. If you were checked by a physio in hospital, I hope that they guided you to be able to start these literally straight away. There's still not, I'm still seeing women who have not been consulted in hospital and haven't had anyone give them this guidance. So that's why we are going over this today. So the evidence suggests that we should start day one, or if you're seeing this 2 months postpartum, 3 months, 6 months, 2 years postpartum, it's never too late. If you're experiencing any symptoms like leaking, incontinence, you're not making it to the loo, you're leaking, when you're sneezing or coughing, if you have those heavy, draggy prolapse symptoms, and that heaviness can stick around for quite a while postpartum. It might not mean that you have a prolapse. It could be a really low-grade prolapse that will resolve by itself. But we want to become aware today of when you're activating the pelvic floor and when it's relaxed. So for a really long time, women have been guided to activate their pelvic floor by only stopping the flow of urine. So when you go to the toilet, trying to stop the flow and then start up again. The main issue with only using that cue is that you're only activating your bladder when you do this. Your pelvic floor consists of your bladder, bowel, and your uterus. So the muscles support all of those organs. So in order to get an amazing connection to your pelvic floor, we actually need to gather all 3 areas with that activation. Most people really struggle to isolate those areas. So the latest research suggests that we should be activating from the back passage first, and that will help to get all 3 points activated. So if you're sitting on the edge of your chair, we're going to start to go through some of those now, and you can give me some feedback how this works for you. If it does not work for you as a cue, please let me know. If you're sitting down on the ground, you need to come up on top of your pillow, right on your sits bones. If you struggle to activate this way, you can come onto your knees and just pop the pillow behind the back of the knees and then sit back down. So from here, what we actually want to do, so the most effective cue at the moment from a research perspective suggests that we should be taking that nice deep inhale through the nose to get into the diaphragm, and then activating the pelvic floor on the exhale. Because then we can actually add this in with exercise to help strengthen and give your pelvic floor protection as a part of your recovery. So we take a nice deep inhale, and then on the exhale, what we want to focus on is thinking that we're actually picking up a blueberry with our back passage and then letting it go. So the visualization that a blueberry is about this big, and that we're actually wrapping around the blueberry with the back passage and lifting up. The biggest misconception with pelvic floor exercises is that we actually clench. And I find that a lot of my prolapse clients that I've worked with over the years, this is what they tend to do, is a clenching, because it feels like they've got more protection. But as I've just done this clenching, I've changed my postural position, and I'm now actually bearing down on my pelvic floor rather than functionally lifting my pelvic floor. So what we want to achieve today is breathing through your pelvic floor exercises, because when we hold on to our breath, we change that postural position and evidently most of the time bear down on the pelvic floor rather than activating and lifting it in a functional way to strengthen it. So in order to heal, we need to use your pelvic floor effectively and optimally. So what I want you to do is just take 2 or 3 of the diaphragmatic breaths that we were just doing previously. We take that nice deep inhale through your nose. We want to get a little bit of belly expansion. It might just be a little bit if your shoulders are doing this. Come into this position again for me. Let's take 3 breaths together. So we inhale through the nose, and then we exhale through the mouth. Good. We inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. Inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. Beautiful. And then just coming back a little bit more aware with yourself and your body. Now what we want to do is take that nice inhale. As you exhale this time, think that we're lifting a blueberry from the back passage and then releasing and relaxing. So you're going to lose it. You might not have it the first few times. Let's keep persisting. We're going to try to do this 6 to 10 times. So breathing in. As you breathe out, think about lifting a blueberry from the back passage and releasing. Check in that your butt cheeks, so the muscles are not clenched. So they need to stay mostly relaxed so that we're doing the work internally rather than using these external muscles. Are we ready to take a breath in? Exhale, lift the blueberry and release. Again. Exhale, lift the blueberry and release. Inhale. Exhale, lift the blueberry from that back passage and release. If you're not 100% sure if we're activating, we don't 100% know unless you've got an ultrasound on or if you're having an internal check from your women's health physio. You can pop your fingertips where the bony part of your pelvis sticks out at the front, just inside there, and see if you can feel anything moving. So we take that deep inhale. As you exhale, start to pick up the blueberry. Good, keep picking it up, keep picking it up. Did you feel anything start to lift on the inside here? Let's just do 2 more. Lift, 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 and release. 1 more. Beautiful. Release and relax. So we're now just going to do a few quick lifts and releases. So your pelvic floor needs to be strengthened in a long endurance hold and a quick lift and release. So those long endurance holds, lifts and holds are for times when we need to effectively use it for a longer period of time. The quick lifts and releases are for things like coughing and sneezing. So if you find that this is your trigger for leaking, what we want to do is start to make sure we're breathing. So we take an inhale. As we exhale, we lift the blueberry. Release. Lift, release. Lift, release. Lift, release. Don't forget to get the blueberry. Release. 3 more. Lift, release. Lift, release. Lift, release. Last one. And release. So the muscles surrounding the pelvic floor get fatigued. So if you found that you had a little bit of connection at the start, but then it got tired, that is 100% completely normal. As it gets stronger, it will become more obvious and more prominent when you're activating these areas and when you're relaxing them. So the next thing I want you to do is we're actually going to pop the pillow between the inner thighs, and I'm going to get you to have a lie down in a glute bridge position. If you're holding onto barbs or feeding at the moment, try and just come onto the edge of the front of either the couch or your dining chair and pop the pillow in the exact same position between those knees. But you're just going to stay upright. So take the option as per what you can do at this point in time. So pillows folded over. If you've got a squishy ball, you can also use that. What I want you to do now is take an inhale into the belly As you exhale, start to draw your knees in so there's pressure on the pillow. And release. Couple more like that. Deep inhale. Exhale. Pressure onto the pillow. And release. Take a deep inhale. Now, as you press your knees in, I want you to start to think about picking up that blueberry. And release. Pick up the blueberry. And release. Two more. So this can be really helpful for some people to activate their pelvic floor, whereas some people it makes it a little bit too confusing. Final one. Beautiful. And then release and relax for a moment. Now what I want you to do, I'll work through those quick lift and releases in this same position, whether you're seated or in this lying down position as though you're sort of going to lift into a glute bridge. We want to exhale. Let's go. Lift the blueberry, squeeze. Lift the blueberry, squeeze the pillow. Beautiful. 3 to go. 2 more. 1 more. And then release and relax for now. Now, carefully, if you're on your back, just come over, exhale to push yourself back up to that seated position. So the main thing with your pelvic floor exercises are that we want to do some isolated pelvic floor work every single day. The research suggests that it is most effective if we can do it 3 times a day in a lying, seated, and a standing position, which seems pretty ridiculous to a new mama. What I want you to do today is try to see whether lying down or seated, whether you feel more connected in either of those two positions. Some people feel more connected lying down, and if you do, then I suggest that you get started with these ones in bedtime, lying down in bed at night time or in the morning, or both. If seated works better for you, then you can also utilize feeding time. The next thing we want to do is that you are a busy mama. So you possibly may lose track or forget or go days without remembering to go through your pelvic floor exercises. We suggest to use the Squeezy NHS app, which you can download both on Android and on Apple. The Squeezy NHS app is like literally $4.95 or like $5 forever. Once you've got the app on your phone, you can actually go through and set up reminders to go off 3 times a day. So I would suggest to set up reminders for 3 times a day, so morning, lunch, and nighttime, and then you can modify these depending on how often Bubs is feeding or when suits you to do these. Don't stress about doing them 3 times a day. If you get them done once each day, that is better than nothing, and it means that you're going to be at least thinking about it once a day. If you do it twice, amazing. Just take each day as it comes. On the app, you're going to need to set up to do short, quick lifts and releases, exactly like we just did then, and longer endurance holds. New postpartum mamas, especially if you've had any birth trauma to your pelvic floor, you need to start slow. So I find most of the time starting with 4 to 5 longer endurance lifts and holds. So 4 lifts for like literally anywhere between 3 to 6 seconds, and 4 to 5 quick lifts and releases are a really great place to start. The end goal would be to be able to do 10 quick lifts and releases and 10 10-second holds. So we've got a little bit more guidance in your PDF that I'll give you about how to slowly progress this. If you have had quite a bit of birth trauma, if you're experiencing prolapse symptoms, we do suggest for you to check in with a women's health physio at about 6 weeks postpartum to have an internal exam to actually now then assess whether the strength and connection of your pelvic floor has progressed since birth and that you're on the right track with activation. And this can just really give you a good indication about this can give you a great indication of how your pelvic floor is functioning. And for those of you who really struggle to connect, this can be a great way to make sure that you're on track. So if you're feeling confident with it, start working through all these things by yourself at home. And just remember, we want to breathe through your pelvic floor exercises, do the lifting of your pelvic floor on the exhale, and we want to visualize that we're lifting a blueberry from the back side of the body. Start in a lying or a seated position, whichever you feel the strongest connection. Set up your squeezy NHS timer for 3 times a day to start off with. And then if you get it done once, amazing. So there are your 2 steps to start off with that we want to learn your diaphragmatic breathing and add your pelvic floor exercises in each day. The more natural these things become, the less it's going to feel like that I'm telling you to do every day. I know it can be really overwhelming as a new mama that you've got enough to be thinking about. So in those first 2 weeks postpartum, we really, really want to honor what your body's been through. You've just been through 9 months of pregnancy. Your body has completely changed to be able to grow and nurture a baby and birth a baby. Everybody's birth experience and journey is completely different. So everyone's postpartum journey is also going to be different. But we do have a bit of a guide to be able to give you a little bit of insight about how that may look depending on your birth. So keep in mind, it's a really big mental shift coming out of pregnancy, having your baby belly have been there for that 9 months to now then be postpartum and baby not be in your belly, but the belly still existing. It takes quite a bit of time for you to adjust both mentally to the changes that have actually happened to your body, your birth experience, and that transition into motherhood or adding an extra child to your family. So I really want you to keep in mind that it takes 9 months for your body to change during pregnancy. So it's going to take just as long, if not longer, for your body to heal postpartum. So most women who, so 1 in 3 women have some form of birth trauma. 1 in 3 women experience incontinence or pelvic floor dysfunction post-baby. For most of those women, it is realistic that the first 6 months postpartum need to be dedicated to strengthening and rehabilitation before jumping back into impact exercise like running or heavy weight training. Those things challenge your pelvic floor on a whole nother level. And so we really advise that you've reduced your symptoms prior to adding those things back in. And if you are wanting to, that you're working directly with a physio to manage any symptoms that may arise. So for our mums who are postpartum, in that first 2 weeks postpartum, looking at your road to recovery, we say rest as much as you can. You've got a new baby, you are going to be spending endless amounts of your day feeding, settling, and rocking bubs to sleep. So the amount of time that you're spending holding onto bubs at the front of your body is going to create a lot of tension through the back of your body. So rest when you can. You need to hydrate. Just be aware of how you're sitting when you are feeding. Try and prop yourself up, no matter whether you're breast or bottle feeding. so that you've got support so you're not completely hunched over. Try and pop pillows under your elbows or behind your back. I also found that sitting on my couch actually was better initially for our feeding rather than the rocking chair that I thought was going to be amazing, because I could support myself with a pillow behind and on the side so that I was able to have a better posture whilst doing that. We want you to be resting, but we want you to be thinking about your posture for those times that you're both feeding. When you're settling and standing and holding onto bubs for really long periods of time throughout the day, I want you to come back to thinking about standing up tall. So have that piece of string lifting you up tall so that you're not hanging forwards and you're trying not to put too much load on that lower back for me. So we want to think about lifting up nice and tall. And that in itself is actually going to help you to connect to your pelvic floor and your deep core. In those first few weeks, as you go about mum life, if you're picking up bubs on average, so a new mum on average picks up their baby 60 times per day. As you're doing that 60 times per day, I just want you to begin to be mindful of how you're doing that. So as you go to pick bubs up, we generally are either squatting, lunging, or hinging. So you might be picking bubs up from the ground. You might be squatting to bend to pick bubs up. You're leaning over into the bassinet and you're hinging. When you're doing those movements, we generally do them unconsciously without thinking about our posture or how we're doing this. I want you to start to think about incorporating the breath and the pelvic floor work into those movements. So this may just be your pelvic floor work for now. As you go to get bubs up from next nap, I want you to think about taking that inhale first and then trying to exhale and lift your pelvic floor as you do so. It can be hard to connect to your pelvic floor whilst doing other things. So the next best cue we can use is making us as you do so. So as we connect to our pelvic floor, we are automatically, as we're getting that lift, going to connect to your deep core. So for a really long time, the fitness industry and the women's health industry was obsessed with telling women that they shouldn't be using their core until they've had their 6-week checkup with their doctor. Well, I have news for you. During that whole first 6 weeks and first few months of having a baby, you are indirectly using your core without even knowing. Every time you pick up your baby, when you're holding your baby for an hour trying to settle them, you're holding weight at the front of your body. So your deep core, all your back muscles are going to be working to support you. So doing things like making that taps into our nervous system to connect to your pelvic floor and your deep transverse abdominis. So you might have heard people refer to your transverse abdominis as your corset muscle. That corset muscle is going to give you strength and protection to aid in the recovery of your pelvic floor and to begin to heal your stomach separation post-baby. So the times when we want to implement this are those 60 times a day when you're bending and picking bubs up from the ground, from tummy time, out of the bassinet, out of the pram, from your partner or a loved one. You might be sitting on the couch. So just keep in mind that anytime you're lifting load, whether it's your baby, washing, taking the bin out or the groceries, picking up the groceries from the ground, we want to try and exhale and lift the pelvic floor with the blueberry. If you're having trouble to connect to that, try and make a and see if you can then visualize the pelvic floor and connect and hug. When we're doing this, this is actually called our next foundation method, belly pumping. So we're now putting together breathing, using your pelvic floor and activating your deep core, but in a functional way. And this is not going to inhibit your recovery. It's actually going to help and aid in your recovery. Because if you pick your baby up 60 times a day, do daily mum life things, hold your baby for hours on end, get in and out of bed without thinking about exhaling and activating your core, that can actually be putting pressure out on your stomach separation and down on your pelvic floor. So I'm just going to give you a couple examples of ways that you can incorporate using this or activating your pelvic floor and hugging around your midsection to get a belly pump to help aid your recovery. So when you're in bed, every time you're getting up and down out of bed, or if you've been on the floor doing tummy time or playing and hanging out with bubs, can you roll onto your side like you had to do during pregnancy to get up out of bed? As you go to lift up, I want you to think about taking that deep inhale, and then exhale. You can either think about lifting the blueberry and then pushing yourself up to a seated position first. If you struggle to get the blueberry in a sideline position, it can be really difficult. So if you can practice this now, absolutely go for it. We pop one arm out, we roll over, take a deep breath in, and then exhale. Try and make that to come all the way up. That is the first step in healing your stomach separation by avoiding doming, coning, or pressure on this area. If you've had a C-section, you are going to need to do this literally for the first couple of months postpartum until your wound is healed or has started healing a little bit more. So if you've had a vaginal delivery, you need to be doing this to help manage the pressure down on your pelvic floor and to let any stitches heal. If you've had a C-section delivery, you need to be doing this to aid in the recovery and to protect that scar tissue. So that's your first time where you can use this, or think that you're lifting and hugging. So lifting on the exhale and hugging. I'm going to get you to practice that 5 times. Then we're actually going to implement it getting up and down off of the ground, because you're going to be doing that a lot with bubs. And then we're going to practice it just in a squatting position to pick bubs up. So we're going to just practice 5 belly pumps. We take a nice deep inhale through your nose. Exhale through your mouth. Think about lifting the blueberry. Lifting, and then think about just wrapping and hugging around where your ribs are. Inhale, relax. Exhale, lift the blueberry, and then think about wrapping and hugging around. So you can either just visualize that blueberry, or you can start to tap into your nervous system by making the on your exhale. So even if you are pretty fresh postpartum, you should feel underneath that really squishy top layer of your belly, which everybody has, and yes, I still have it, even though George is 8 months old. As you get to the end of your exhale or making that, you should feel a really firm layer underneath the squish, and that is your transverse abdominis, your deep corset muscle active. And that is what's going to help to protect you from injuring your lower back and helping to aid the recovery of your stomach separation postpartum as well. So this is what we can implement when we're picking up bubs, when you're getting up and down out of bed. And the next thing we want to do is, if you've had any pelvic floor trauma postpartum, a lot of women feel quite vulnerable in a squat position. So if you're getting up and down off the ground, coming into a kneeling lunge position, it actually gives your pelvic floor a little bit more support and protection. So if you come into this kneeling position and tuck your toe, if you're fresh postpartum, this is going to be quite difficult. So just try to bear with yourself. Exhale, make that, because lifting your blueberry here can be really hard to feel that it's active. So I want you to take an inhale. As you exhale, you can either just do this without bubs to start off with and stand up for me. So we're just going to sink back down for a moment. And if you're picking up bubs, you're going to be slightly hinged forward. This is a great position to also get into if you're putting bubs in the rocker. So if you've got a little baby born rocker, pop your foot on the side, pretend that the rocker's here, and you can lean forwards and pop bubs in and not feel vulnerable through your pelvic floor. So a lunge is a great position to give you support to do your daily mum life, basically. So we come into this position. If you've got bubs, we pick them up, bring them to the chest, and then exhale to rise. This is going to require you to use your butt, pelvic floor, and deep core to drive up. If you're holding bubs or pretend with a pillow, we're going to come back down to the ground. Same thing. Pop them back down. We then exhale. We take that nice big stand back up. Let's just do 3 more so you can practice. This should feel quite hard, especially if you're holding bubba. Keep in mind, the further the load is away from the body, the more pressure down on the pelvic floor. So if you're holding bubs, try and keep them close to you as you're standing up rather than holding them away. All right, last 2. Let's take a deep breath in. Exhale. 1 more. Nice deep exhale. Beautiful. Next position that you're going to do a lot is a squat, whether you know it or not. You're going to be popping bubs down, picking them up, all sorts of things. So when you're squatting postpartum, it's especially important to remember if you had any tearing, episiotomy, heavy, dragging prolapse symptoms, if you're still experiencing those postpartum, we want you to be really mindful in a squat position, because it can be really easy to hold your breath, which will directly add that pressure down on the pelvic floor. So when we go through these movements, we want to take an inhale on the way down. And then as we come into the up phase of the squat, we actually want to exhale, pick up that blueberry, zip up, and then we want to hug around and get that nice deep belly pump to give you some protection as well. So especially if you're picking bubs up from the floor. If you have got any pelvic floor symptoms at all, the wider the squat, the more vulnerable you're going to feel. So as much as a woman's pelvis comes down and out, and that's quite a comfortable position to squat in, if you have any pelvic floor symptoms, bring those feet in a little bit closer to start off with, to just slowly get comfortable working your way into a squat, because it's inevitable that you're going to be doing this many times per day without actually realizing. So let's get you doing it well. Are we ready? Take a little inhale, coming down. Now, as you start to lift into the up phase of the squat, I want you to visualize either picking up that blueberry, keep picking it up, and then keep hugging all the way around. So take the squat wherever it feels comfortable for you. Deep inhale. Now exhale. If it's easier to make this and connect to that nervous system, go for it. Oh dear, child's waking up. Beautiful. Deep inhale for me. Let's just do 4 more. If you are new postpartum, let's just take it slow. Don't go very low. 2 more. 1 more. Beautiful. The other movement I want to go over really quickly, and I might just need to grab George in a moment, is that we've done lunging. You're going to lunge, squat, and hinge. So the hinging motion is generally hinging over and up to put bubs in the bassinet, or eventually in a cot in however many months' time. So when you're popping them into the bassinet, it's a little bit easier because it's a little bit higher generally than the cot to pop them into, but be mindful that we're not slouching and rounding to pop them in. If we work the back of the body, it can be really strong and help to prevent back injury as well. So as we do so, you actually want to soften the knees a little bit, hinge from the hips, and keep a nice long posterior side of your body. So you basically should start to sort of hinge and lift. We hinge over and then lift back up. So this is evidently the movement that you're going through. I want you to start to become a little bit more familiar of what your posture is doing. So make sure we're not slumped. You want your upper back to be working, and you want the hinging to be happening at the hips. So same purpose here. It's harder to rise up. So we take that exhale and make that on the way up. If you're holding bumps to put them down, you can exhale the whole time as you release them to give you that protection. And then let's go 2 more of these little hinges. Good. 1 more. Beautiful. So your daily mum movements are the next phase of how you start to transition and aid and assist your body with postpartum recovery. So we've gone over your breathing, your isolated pelvic floor contractions, and adding them into daily life using the NHS app. We've just gone over your belly pumping, which is activating your pelvic floor and core together. And I want you to use that in your daily mum life when you're squatting, lunging, and hinging to pick up your bumps. Picking up toys off the ground, all those sorts of things, or with carrying washing basket, picking up groceries, and also putting the pram in the car. Make sure that the biggest thing, if you take anything away from today, is do not hold your breath whilst doing those movements. Try to exhale on, say, if you're picking up your groceries, on the hardest part of the movement, because that's going to support the natural lift and activation of your pelvic floor and wrap of your core to help that postpartum recovery. So first 2 weeks postpartum, we want to focus on yourself and bubs and starting to get to know each other. Set up your pelvic floor reminders so that you don't have to think about it until your reminder comes up. Be mindful of your breathing. When you feel up to it, we do suggest to start with some really slow, short walks. Short walks can start to increase your blood flow and oxygen around your body to actually support your recovery. Your first few walks, no matter whether you've had a vaginal or a C-section birth, need to be slow. Get your partner to push pram so that you can take it slow. I'm literally, especially if you have had a Caesar, I want you wearing high-waisted support shorts or tights if you can, please. I know a lot of the SRC shorts and the postpartum support wear can be really firm. So mine didn't actually, I was a bit of an idiot and didn't order the next size up. They didn't fit me until like 6 weeks postpartum. So I wore some of my high-waisted tights that I had before, and that gave me a little bit of support when I left the house to go for a really short walk, so that I didn't feel like everything was falling out and that I felt like I had some support. And just start with 5 to 10 minutes, because that 5 to 10 minutes is going to help to get all these muscles around here working and active again. So we don't want to overdo it. We just want to do a little bit. I'll just grab George and I'll be back in 2 secs. Hey, what's going on? Hi. Hi. Yeah, you can say hello to everybody. So first 2 weeks, we just want to really focus on that nourishing, rest when you can, nourishing, rest when you can, start all of that recovery process. From 2 weeks onwards, in your guide that I'm going to email you, you can start to slowly increase both your isolated pelvic floor exercises, increase your daily walks ever so slowly, and you can start some really slow controlled postpartum Pilates, where you basically integrate the belly pumping that we were just doing with some really slow controlled basic movements. And I'm just gonna, if George stays nice and entertained for 2 secs, I'll take you guys through just 5 to 10 minutes of some slow control Pilates that you can begin within a few weeks postpartum to just bring awareness. You won't feel a super strong core connection, but if you start to do a little bit every day, every couple of days, that connection will become stronger. It will help both your pelvic floor, but also your stomach separation heal postpartum too. So if you can stick around for another 5-10 minutes, we'll go through that now. And so that there is stuff you can do before your 6-week checkup. That is the main thing we want to go over today. And I'll just quickly answer your question. So a couple of good brands for I recommended before, the compression shorts and tights, the SRC shorts or tights, and then I actually had the Lenny Rose active wear shorts, which were incredible, and one of her maternity crops. And then I also have lived in my Bloomberry maternity crops as well. So I just had a question about the sports bras. So they've been the best thing ever for me postpartum, and I literally still wear them like every day. So I'd recommend those ones, and I can pop them back up there in a minute for you if you like. Otherwise, let's jump down on your mat or your carpet for me, and we'll get started. George will just hang out for a minute. All right. So if you do have space to quickly lie down for our little mini Pilates series, have a lie down on your back for me, please, gorgeous ladies. If you have your pillow still, we're going to pop that under your hips just for a little bit of support, because you will find that there is probably going to be a little bit more of a tilt in your pelvis than usual. So keep your pillow close. We're going to need it in 2 secs. Come onto your side, roll onto your back. Once you're here, what I want you to do is just pop one hand under your lower back, other hand onto the belly for me. As you're doing this, I just want you to start to slowly tilt your pelvis so that your back is firm on the hand underneath, and then release it off. So tilt your pelvis onto that hand that's on the ground and release. So these in the Pilates world are just known as little pelvic tilts. And you can take that underneath hand out now and just go forwards and backwards without it. Where are you going? As we go through these little tiny pelvic tilts, I want you to become aware of how much of an arch is under that lower part of your back. So if you are pretty fresh postpartum, I assume that you almost might fit your whole hand underneath. When we're doing any floor work initially here, we want to take to make sure that your back's not completely arched off the ground. To find your right position or your neutral position, we want to take a nice deep inhale through your nose. Get that belly expansion like we've been practicing today. And then on your exhale, can you now visualize that you're picking up your blueberry, zipping up. Now think that you're hugging and wrapping all the way around to get a deep connection. And then this should have minimized the distance under the lower part of your back, and it should be basically between the two extremes of where you were working. So not completely arched, but not completely slamming into the ground either. Bring your feet in nice and close. Now we want to keep your hips here. And then just come onto your toes for me. So you're going to find that you're going to lose the connection quite quickly, and that is 100% okay, but I want you to just start to be mindful of either lifting your blueberry and wrapping your core to get the belly pump, or making that we've been working on. So take a nice deep inhale. On your exhale, we're going to get that blueberry lift, or making that float your right leg up to 90 degrees. Take an inhale, make that take it back down to the ground. Over to the other side. Deep breath in, deep breath out. Inhale and exhale. Beautiful. If you're finding that you want to keep going that slow and inhaling and exhaling at the top, go for it. If you can get all the way up and all the way down on one exhale, then you can also do that too. Breathe in, breathe out. Excellent.
Now that we know what we're doing, over the next couple breaths, can you pop your hands just on that inch below your belly button? So the inch below your belly button should feel quite squishy. And what we want to focus on is after you've connected to your core, then we move. As you take the leg down, what we want to avoid is your back arching or this pelvic position changing. And we want to avoid any popping through that lower part of the belly. You will find if the lower part of the belly is popping, you might experience pressure down either on your pelvic floor or C-section scar, or you've lost the connection. So we really want to focus on making that breathe in. One more. Okay. So this time, can you exhale? Float your right leg up to 90 degrees. On your exhale, we're going to start to move the leg away from the body and back in. So we're going all the way out and in on your exhale. Breathe in. Is that funny, George? Last one. Beautiful. Other side. Deep breath in. Now exhale. Beautiful. We've just got two more. All the way in. Perfect. Good. If you've got your pillow close by, can you now I'm just going to go through a couple more things and then I'll let you guys go. We're going to exhale, roll your hips up into a bridge. Just place that pillow underneath your sacrum, so right in the middle of your pelvis. If it's a square pillow, can you fold it in half to make it rectangle and then place it right under the hips and a little bit under your lower back. Now that we're there, bring both feet in, pop them flat on the ground and bring your knees all the way together. So your ankles, knees, all should be touching. Take a breath in. Now as we breathe out, I want you to let your right leg fall out towards the side and pull it back in. As you do so, make sure your hips stay grounded. We fall out to the side, pull back in. So it's pulling out to the side, but with control. Keep pressing down through your left foot to keep your pelvis stable. Inhale. Exhale, we pull out and in. Last one. Other side for me. Plant your right foot down. We now exhale. The left leg falls out towards the left. It just slightly comes onto the side of the foot. Pull it back in. Check in, you're not holding onto your breath. Good. Exhale to do the work. Let's do another 4. Three more. 2 to go. Last one. Beautiful. Roll over onto your side. Now practice that same exhale or to push yourself up. Come over onto all fours. So just the last little one to basically finish off for today, to wrap up our little postnatal masterclass. Come onto all fours. Spread your hands nice and wide for me. Bring your body weight forward so that your shoulders are over your wrists, knees are under your hips. From here, take a deep breath in, let your belly relax down towards the ground. As you exhale, you now want to pick up that blueberry. Think that you're zipping up the middle of your midsection like you have a zipper on your jacket or on your top. So we zip, zip, zip.
and then hug around. Beautiful. Now we're going to work into a bird dog, but we're just going to break it down. We're going to, as you breathe out this time, you want to get that lift first, then reach your right arm forwards, bring it back in. Breathe in, breathe out. Get the lift of the blueberry first before you move, and then reach. Lovely. Almost there. We've got 4 more. So we should be moving as you exhale. See if you can pick up the blueberry, zip up the middle, or make that nice deep sound. 2 to go. 1 more. Beautiful. Let's get those legs working. On your exhale, glide your right leg back along the ground. Your focus is to keep your pelvis as stable as possible. You should basically be able to pop a cup of tea on your pelvis and not burn yourself. So it's not about how high or quick we're going. This is all about slow and control. And then over time, you can speed it up. Exhale, extend. Inhale, pull forwards. Exhale, extend. Last 2, then we're going to put them together. Beautiful. So this time we're going to extend your right leg and your left arm. Keep them low. Keep them along the ground for that extra support. Make sure you're breathing out or making that. Pull it back in. Inhale. Exhale to move. Good, we've got 3 to go. Breathe in. Breathe out. 1 more.
I need a poo. Is that okay with you?
Okay, come all the way up. Just link your fingers, open your chest for me. Beautiful. So that is the main part of your masterclass done for today. I really just wanted to highlight that you can really begin your deep, intricate recovery straight away postpartum. There's not a lot of people talking about what you can do in those first 2, 4, 6 weeks before you have your checkup. If you did have any birth trauma, experiencing incontinence or prolapse symptoms, please book in to see Women's Health Physio. They don't usually see you before 4 to 6 weeks postpartum. That doesn't mean that you can't start working on your pelvic floor before. So start with everything that we have gone over today. I will, when George goes down for his next nap, I will email you across a little bit of guide on the week by week, how you can slowly progress your basis movement with just some walking, and then your pelvic floor exercises, and then when you can start to introduce that little bit of slow control Pilates work, when Bubs is having that last nap where you're waiting to do dream feed or something at night time, and then what the road to recovery looks like from there. So when you can start to get back to other forms of exercise. I was just going to say, yes, of course. I will, actually, I'll just pop them here. Let's just see. Beautiful. If anyone has any questions, please let me know. I'll just pop up those 2 brands of postpartum sort of activewear that you can get. Lenny Rose Activewear. So Lenny Rose Activewear is from a Melbourne mama who is a physio as well. So they've all been designed. Some of them you can get private health rebates back on as well.
And I had her like postpartum shorts, and they were great. They are really, really firm. So I would probably size up compared to what you were pre-pregnancy. Shorts and maternity crop were great. And then I'll also pop on the info for the SRC shorts. I'll pop it all in the email for you guys. Beautiful, beautiful. The only other thing that I was going to pop, I did forget to say, sorry, and also C-section. Mama, thank you for popping that there. If you have had a Caesar, it can be really painful on your C-section scar when you cough, sneeze, and things like that. And when you go in the car for the first time with the seatbelt, obviously you've made your way home from hospital unless you, so if you can take something to pop under the seatbelt in the car, that would be great. If you are going to cough or sneeze as well, if you do have something near you, if you have a pillow or something to add pressure on the scar to give you a little bit of support, that will actually help you greatly. Just to take that little bit of pressure off, because it can feel really like a sharp stabbing pain on the C-section scar as well. Beautiful, beautiful. And I'll also pop up a bit of information about scar tissue massage for C-section mamas. So that is something that you can start pretty soon postpartum, and that can actually help your healing of the scar tissue. Plus also if you've got a little ledge above your scar tissue, so it might be quite fluidy possibly at the moment as well. There's a few different techniques you can use from a scar tissue to also help deep, because you've had 7 layers of muscle and tissue that have been cut through during the procedure, and it all takes quite a bit to bring blood flow back to it to help that recovery, and your core connection will be stronger if you actually work through all that scar tissue too. So I'll give you guys some information on that, but when I email you later, please feel free to send back any questions, and yeah, if I can help in any other way, please let me know. Thank you so much for jumping on today. It's been lovely to have you all here and help your journey. And yeah, we will talk to you soon. Yeah, always free on email and on socials to have a chat anytime and help you with your recovery. So you are not alone. It can be a really sort of isolating, lonely time. So please reach out. We've been there. And yeah, we would love to keep supporting you. So enjoy your Tuesday, and I'll chat to you later today, mamas. Thanks so much. All right. Beautiful. I'll stop the recording.